Once again, we're going back to my childhood. More accurately, back to a time where Windows 95 dominated the PC market. My PC was an old IBM Aptiva, and I was still astonished at the marvel known as a compact disc. More than 700 megabytes of data on one shiny round piece of plastic? Who'd have thunk it? When I got this PC, which was actually given to my family from one of my dad's friends, I found a bunch of new games to play. I was ecstatic. I was used to Windows 3.1 and DOS Shell, so my first real glance at PC gaming was with Commander Keen 1, 4, and Wolfenstein 3D. Not a bad start, but I was anxious to see what the CD media could do. I still have some of the games I got with the computer, like Silent Steel, Indoor Fun, Frogger, and the game I'm reviewing this week, Cyberia. Cyberia was one of the first glances I ever had into the adventure genre. I first played Silent Steel, which was an FMV-style game with choices, so I guess that was the first. But Cyberia still shocked me. It had a healthy mix of adventure, puzzles, and action. You play as a guy named Zach, a man tasked with infiltrating a certain base to find a special weapon that was being developed. This weapon is named Cyberia, hence the title of the game. First things first, you enter a base and are summoned to see a man named Santos. Your sole goal here is to grab a plane and fly to Cyberia, with an S. Yeah, they really put the Siberian weapon in the Siberian part of the world. Once you fly through about 8 different action sequences where you have to shoot down intercepting fighter planes, you land in Cyberia and go to hunt for the location of the weapon. Of course, it's never this simple. In fact, this game is freaking difficult at times, and that's even on the easy difficulties. Let me talk to you about that quick. When you start off the game, you enter in your name, which doubles as a save system. In order to continue, you retype your name, and you'll be told to, "Welcome back to Cyberia." This has always sounded cool to me, regardless on how ridiculously basic it is now. From here, you can just hit escape and load a previous checkpoint. That's right, this is a checkpoint game. But first, back to my original topic, the difficulties. You have 2 selections to make. One is for arcade, one is for puzzles. The arcade parts consist of the rail shooter segments. The harder it is, the more aggravating it can be, so I recommend this set to easy unless you have real good faith in your skills. The puzzles, of which there's a good amount, have different complexities and solutions at higher challenge levels. You cannot have both selections at easy, as the game will flat out tell you that this will make the game too simple. I have doubts on that, but that's besides the point. Back in the day, watching these sorts of CG scenes was jaw-dropping, but now it definitely shows its age, especially when it comes to facial animations. But then again, I'm also veering all over the place again. I really want to start with Zach's movement. Zach's main method of traveling is extremely simple, and you can't change directions at mid-walk. Basically, Zach is walking on rails. When he reaches an intersection, he stops, and you get to decide which direction to move in by pressing left and right to switch it up to move forward. Nowadays, this looks a bit silly to just see a man just twist around abruptly like this, but it's what you gotta work with. There are points of the game where if you move in the wrong direction, you die, so there's going to be a lot of trial and error, and mainly a lot of error. This is because many times you'll need to explore many different angles. Zach may have to hide behind a box to proceed, instead of just blatantly walking forward. If you do just attempt to run ahead, you'll just get shot, and one hit equals death to everything in this game, other than the arcade segments. I'll get to those shortly. I will also say that the hitboxes in the adventure parts are hideously bad. As a matter of fact, I'd be willing to say that it may be some of the worst hitboxes I have ever seen in a game. I can't say how many times I've died in a firefight because 1, even though I swear I'm hitting someone, apparently I'm not. And 2, Zach moves so fucking slowly that it's nearly impossible to fire off a shot without being hit first. I think more of the battles I've won were just a matter of pure shit luck than actual time skill. In fact, one of the battles, the first you'll encounter in Cyberia, I actually had to skip, just because I couldn't run past this fucker. I had to double back and go through a freaking ventilation shaft, where you run the risk of being chopped up. Then you need to run through this area, because if you're not fast enough, Zach dies because the room is too loud. Yeah, okay. Oh, and you can't skip cutscenes, so don't bother trying. This can be really annoying when you're stuck at a checkpoint that may have a cutscene, then a possible death situation, like a firefight. So what about the puzzles? Every once in a while, you'll encounter something that you'll have to interact with, whether it be an elevator, a bomb, or a trap. Sorry players, no mouse control here. So you might be lost, but there's 3 skills available to you. One is an IR scanner, which is used to show heat signatures, and is necessary to open up a door based on the last person used the keypad. The second is an MRI, which shows you all the intricate sees in the device that you're trying to hack. Third is a biomass scan, which is rarely used. In addition, you'll see a small meter of 4 bars, which denotes your skill level. Basically, you can use these 3 abilities up to a combination of 4 times per puzzle. You shouldn't ever need to reach the maximum tries, but the limit is there. I will mention that the worst puzzles seem to be, at least in my opinion, the elevator pump. It's the last one of the game, and instead of being based on skill, it's more on luck, as you have to juggle 4 hydraulic pumps that fall at different rates until they're level. Seriously, this is the hardest puzzle they can come up with. Oh, and the checkpoints? With the amount of times you'll be dying, they can be relatively spaced out. There will be times that you have to fight guards multiple times just because you're getting your ass kicked due to the horrible hitboxes and slow movements. So yes, with all the cheap deaths, you'll be seeing the game over screen a lot. Alright, so let me move on to the more exciting parts of the game, for those who are maybe getting bored watching Zach lumber around and sick of seeing game over screens. The arcade areas. Your first foray into this is the facility defense. You'll meet up with a girl named Gia, who you have to make out with afterwards. Or not, if you want a much easier first half of the game. Anyway, strap yourself to a stationary gun and must shoot down enemy fighters and mines. Although this part is easy enough with a keyboard, once you leave the facility on the fighter jet, it's best to use a mouse. In fact, I didn't even know this was possible at first, so I was struggling with my keyboard and restarted the game on an easier arcade level. Then I found out that by pressing F, you give your control to the mouse, making these sections infinitely easier. Well then, these arcade sections are a blast. Controlling the jet is done automatically, so all you have to worry about is the shooting. In many of the missions, you're given an objective, and if you fail to destroy it, you must redo the mission. There's about 10 or so missions available in this fighter jet. After each mission, you're given a performance rating. Although this has no bearing on the game, it is strictly for bragging rights. I will say that these missions do have their faults. Okay, I lied, maybe there's only one. And it's that enemies require memorization to really avoid damage. Some of them are in hidden spots that are impossible to foresee, so unless you played the game before, you'll never expect them to be there, as you're just not given enough time to react. And let's look at the tunnel level, the shortest one. This is the best example of how you would need superhuman reflexes to go through unscathed, especially if using your keyboard. Just watch this. This is bullshit, right? I will say that the game has given you a recharging shield to help you out. If you get attacked when the shield is empty, the actual hull of the jet will be damaged. Naturally, if this is depleted, you die. You also have a regenerating ammo meter, so you just can't simply hold down the trigger. These jet segments are cool looking, but that's not all for the arcade segments. There are 3 other parts of the game that force you to shoot in an on-the-rail style shooter. You'll have to create a vaccine and must purge the virus from the compound via computer. This one is simple enough and gives you a few chances to succeed. The next one forces you to take control of a vehicle named Charlie and guide it through a heavily infected section of the Siberian lab. You have your standard shot and a screen-clearing bomb that takes out a chunk of your ammo supply. This ammo doesn't replenish, so you really need to make every shot count. And if you even let one virus get past, it'll glide through the door and kill Zack in a humorous fashion. And if you want to laugh even more, try out the trigger before Charlie actually gets moving. Once this is done, the final arcade segment lets you merge with the Cyberia with a C weapon, as Zack is now on a vengeful quest against the villain of the game. If you're using a keyboard, be prepared to possibly break it, because this last part, it doesn't hold back and is extremely frustrating. At least you have infinite ammo, but the kicker is that you no longer have any readout on your current health, so you have to guess. I think you can take about 12 shots before dying, but that's also an estimate. I also don't know if your shield or health regenerates like in the jet segments. Most of the game looks good, but parts are fairly bland. I actually preferred the graphics of the jet segments over the rest of the game, as it was just fun to fly around over massive bodies of water and blowing up enemy planes and ships. Zack himself has decent detail, but that skin-tight bodysuit is a real bland thing. Not to mention you always have to look at his finely sculpted ass and junk. It's like he's wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Stupid sexy Flanders. Music-wise, there isn't much to talk about. You do have some awesome music during the flying scenes, but that's about it. Can't say it hurts the game, since it's more about the atmosphere, but at least what's there is pleasant. Well, I think that's all I got for Cyberia. It's a fun little game, although extremely frustrating at times. It's easily completable in about an hour and a half if you really know what you're doing, and if you just want to fly around and blow shit up, you can just load up those checkpoints. I really think that the game could have used a few more puzzles and less bullshit cheap deaths, but for what we got, it's a decent game. I'll just admit that if you rage easy, this may not be the game for you, as those damn shooting segments may have you breaking your PC. The game is also available on PlayStation, but I've never tried that version. If you enjoy adventure or real shooter games, give this one a shot, but don't expect anything that will blow your mind. The enemies will do enough of that to Zach. Final score? 6 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.